many types collector. Maybe we want to know your story and what is your journey to the watch industry, watch world, and also you work with the Christie. Please tell us about yourself.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, it's not your pleasure, it's my pleasure to be here with you today in Bangkok. I started loving watches when I was younger, and I remember always looking watches on my father's wrist, asking him what it was, and it kind of grew up that way. And I remember I joined my first live auction in 2019 at Christie's. It was the only watch auction. I was in the room when the famous Patek sold for 31 million Swiss francs.
Wow, which model?
At the 6300 in stainless steel, the Grandmaster chime.
Wow.
With salmon dial. So I remember I was in the room, tension was electric, everything was great, and I turned to my dad at the end of the auction. I was like, I think this is something that could suit me very well.
Yeah.
And I started doing one internship in 2020, so right after COVID during the summer season, and it was during a Geneva auction. So I helped with 4 auctions before joining officially the team after I graduated.
So Eli, the next question, because you've seen a lot of watch and you met a lot of the collectors, right? And you work as an insider in the watch industry. What surprised you about the watch collector right now compared to the 5 years ago?
I think the main surprise is that collectors now, they have a better knowledge about the watch industry and about everything that is related to watches. 5 years ago, it was period right after COVID, and it was kind of the beginning of independence, and it was at the hype of the modern pieces, all the hype watches, let's say. And now, 5 years later, we see that those watches, the market has softened, still not dropped, but has calmed quite a bit. And there is more and more people interested in craftsmanship and independence. So they have access to those information online, so the knowledge gets deeper and deeper. And I think that that's the main difference between today's market and 5 years ago. It's the access to special aspects of the watchmaking industry.
Yeah, because a lot of different. In my time, we have to read only the book.
Exactly, read the book, or then you would go online in forums to ask questions, wait a few days to get the answer. But now it's also, there are more and more watch groups where you can share information,
right?
And you can go online, you ask whatever question to any AI, it will be able to answer you with information that is already online. So the access to information is different.
Okay. So the next question, Eli, what separates the good watch to the collectible great watch in your eyes?
I think as watch passionates, we agree that all watches are great watches.
Yeah.
Then, regardless of the country in which it's made, the quality, the price point, all watches are great watches. It all comes down to the collector or your own point of view. In terms of maybe this watch, for example, for me it's a great timepiece. It's a collectible timepiece because it's young, because it's fun, because it's different. But for other collectors that value more, let's say, timeless designs or specific complication, for them this might be a good watch, but not a great watch. So it really depends on who's the collector and what pieces speaks to them. I think that the collectible point of view and the great aspect about watches can be narrowed down to the craftsmanship and the quality of the watch itself.
Okay, I see the point. So it depends on the who collect it, right?
Exactly.
And what they see on the watch.
But it can go down to quality in the end. If the quality of a timepiece is very well done and very well made, then it makes it a great watch. If the quality is so-so, if while you wear it, the watch does not work well, or there are some issues, that can make it a good watch.
Okay, so the next question I need to know also is the hidden gems. We talk about the hidden gems because I know your job is you're looking for the ahead of the time, looking for the future. The hidden gem in your opinion right now is what is the reason for the brand or the watchmaker that became hidden gem before the market know it? What is your idea?
Now it's really getting more and more difficult to find a hidden gem. And we're in April 2026. Since January, how many new brands emerged from the market? 3, 4, 5, I can count them on the hand.
Yeah.
And those are new watches that have already sold or pre-sold watches for the past 2-3 years. So I think the hidden gem is now more and more difficult to see because all the new watches that are coming in, there are already a lot of attention to them. I think that the whole point of having independent watchmakers is to connect with those watchmakers. So I think that the first point that is the most important one in my opinion is to understand and to get to know the watchmaker. Because once you know the watchmaker, you understand the watches better. You have his point of view, you have technically his idea and his sweat and tears on the watch. So to understand his value of time, that's the most important thing.
Okay, I see that. Then we talk about the independent brand. What do you think about the independent watch that in the near future maybe they can become like a key pillar or the key segment of the market? What do you think?
I think they could. So there have been independent watchmakers since the 1990s.
Right.
And some of them are still here today. Others, unfortunately, their watches did not proceeded with time, did not progress. So I think independence and the independent watchmakers, they have a key point in the watch industry. They bring freshness, they bring creative ideas, they bring creative designs, also new complications.
Innovation.
And exactly, and that's what we like as collectors and watch lovers, passionates. I think there are more and more brands coming in. I do not expect so many of them to still be here in 10 years. I think some of them, they do amazing watches, but probably they will lose track of time in the coming years. And it can all go down to specific complication and to interesting design. And also they need to have a certain vision. What do they want to do with their brand? Do they want to turn it into making only a small production or do a bit more? Do they have an idea of building a proper brand or proper branding also, or simply to produce pieces? So I think this will also have its impact on the future.
Yeah, I saw the trend also. RM became number 6 last year.
Exactly.
Yeah, we saw the number.
Yeah.
And I think the rate is coming up.
Exactly, and there are more and more people that are interested in those independent watchmakers, more and more events, as you said, and this can only open more doors. So watchmakers that are practicing at known brands and known houses, they want to do their own watches, they want to do their own products. So it can only be good for the industry.
You think today market is driven from the passion like us or driven by the speculation?
I think post-COVID was very about speculation. It was all about making a quick deal, let's say. You go out of a boutique, you can sell it and already make 20-30%. Now we're at a point where passion outgrew speculation again. But I think that speculation is still a big aspect because watches are getting more and more expensive. So it's difficult to think about spending $100,000 on a timepiece and not think about a resale value in case of emergency. You want to have some sort of reassurance that if you would like to sell the timepiece, you don't lose too much. I'd say. So that's the mentality of some collectors. Other collectors, it's purely about passion, and that's also how we can see so many watches with strong retail prices sell for so little in the open market.
Yeah.
It means that some people bought them at retail price.
Still want it, yeah.
So they still want it. They still like the craftsmanship. They appreciate the brand, and they still want to be part of a family. So they continue buying, and those buyers, they care more about the passion rather than the investment point of view.
Yeah. So it like a mixed type right now. I think maybe at my time we are only the passion 100%. We don't know tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? Not we can profit or not. But nowadays maybe we have to think a little bit about what we kept is have some value.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, 15 years ago, if we think about it, you would buy a standard Nautilus with already a discount from the boutique.
Right.
And you would sell it even lower on the market.
Right.
And people did not pay attention because for them it was normal.
Yeah.
And you would buy watches and sell it because selling watches did not necessarily mean that you would make a profit out of it.
Yeah.
Only so few watches were sold higher than the retail price.
Right.
Whereas today it's the contrary. Only so few watches can sell for below the retail price in the secondary market.
Yeah.
So the feeling and the approach of this is totally different now. And that's why now that the secondary market has softened for more modern timepieces, modern productions, that's also how the waiting lists are getting narrower and narrower, because instead of buying it for 10 and selling it for 15, now you buy for 11 and you can sell for 12, 13. So many people think that they don't really need to buy it because now it doesn't make much more sense. So it opens door to real passionate people that still wants to watch regardless of its value, and they're happy to buy it at 11 because they don't really pay attention to the secondary price.
Yeah. Good. And when you curate the watch for the auction for the customer, what is the story that you want to tell them?
That's a good question. Every time, as watch specialists, I think it's important to take watches in the auctions that speaks to us also. Of course, we take what we can get, and it's always a pleasure to see watches, to discuss with their owners. But every time we have watches in the live auction or even in the online watches, I like to say that those are watches that I would buy for myself. It helps with the curating process. And once you like a timepiece or you understand a timepiece, it's easier to explain it to someone. With collectors, with clients, passionates, it's more about what they want to build and how they want to build their collection. And once they have an idea of their tastes and maybe their eras of collecting, vintage, new vintage, modern, independents, mainstream brands, low production, high production. Once they have that idea, it's easier for us to guide them and to point them to the right direction.
Right, because they love that way already, right?
Exactly. So if someone likes sports pieces, we would guide them towards the rare sports pieces that we could find, or we would tell them about the story about the timepiece, the story about the owner, and it comes down to the provenance. Does it come from the original owner? Who's the original owner? Does it have a particular story with that timepiece? If it's a watch from the 60s, 70s, what did he use it in? Was he a diver? Was he a pilot?
Yeah.
Was he a car racer?
Yeah.
So this also has its importance. And condition.
Yeah, sure. Come back to condition.
Come back to the condition, because that's the most important aspect of the watch collecting industry is condition. So collectors, they're after condition, they're after rarity, and they're also after sometimes provenance and fun story about the timepiece.
Yeah.
Once we have all of those, it makes the point of view of auction different from a collector's point of view. So instead of looking at 250 watches in the catalog, they only focus on 20, 30 watches because those are the watches that speaks to them.
Okay. Looking ahead, right now, what you see is the undervalue area or the overvalue area of the watch market?
think what's being overvalued is time-only watches.
Time-only watches.
Time-only watches now, they reach a point where they sell for sometimes more expensive price point than a tourbillon or a chronograph or perpetual calendar. So I think those aspects of watches is a bit overvalued. After it all comes down to condition, to the quality of the timepiece and the brand also. And in my opinion, what is being undervalued is the quest of proper craftsmanship and finishing. People today, or some collectors today, they value more design and complication than proper finishing of the movement. And when you take a loop and you look at modern watches from independent watchmakers or even from known brands, and you look at the movements, sometimes the finishing can make you think twice about the timepiece. So I think that people have shifted from the quality to design and probably collectability, and needs to come back to how a timepiece is essentially finished. And if the angles are well defined, if the Côte de Genève are well made, and the quality of the movement and the dial itself needs to be more looked after.
Yeah. If I go deeply, is what era that you think is still undervalued?
I think the 1990s.
90s is
neo-vintage. Neo-vintage pieces. Brands like Patek Philippe from the 90s, the watches have already gathered much interest in the past years. But there are still brands, the early, for example, I love early Roger Dubuis, early Frank Muller, early Anderson Genève also. Those are watches that are still, in my opinion, undervalued. Even 1990s Breguet.
Yeah.
Some Breguet can be found for, really, in my opinion, an undervalued price. You can get a tourbillon for $25,000, $30,000, which does not make much sense because the movements are well finished. There's nice decorations, handmade. And those are the type of watches that still resonates with us today, even 30, 35 years later.
Yeah. So if you recommend is the first one is in the 90s, second one is the complication.
Yes.
I think this key value. And the handmade, the craftsmanship, right?
Exactly.
Three key things.
Exactly. Those are the three good things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eli, for the Asia collector, if right now they're building their collection, what is your advice to them to avoid maybe they follow the trend of the market?
If you want to start building a collection, if you want to start collecting, you need to buy what you like. You need to buy what makes you smile. That's the key point. You need to buy what makes you happy. Once you put it on your wrist, you need to look at it without the need of knowing the time. You need to look at it just to view it, to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And if you really want to know what time it is, you look at your phone. But if you want to feel some sort of emotion and feeling, you look at your watch, you look at your wrist. This is the key point of starting collecting. Now, following trends is okay if it's a trend of watches that you like and that you want to start collecting. Now there's a trend going on with independent watchmakers, with newcomers of the industry, with shaped watches also and specific design. If those are watches that speaks to you, then buy them. But don't buy watches because you think that it will get you somewhere, or you think that it will you will have access to other watches. And also, you should buy watches for yourself and not for other people,
for showing people
to think of yourself of someone. And if you follow trends, if you go against the trend, as long as the watch speaks to you, go for it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Last but not least, if you have to give only one advice to the Thai collectors, what it would be?
So we just mentioned, as long as the watch gives you smile, that's a good advice, but I'll change the advice this time by saying I think a very, very strong part of collecting is the journey. And with that journey, you don't need, but it's important to surround yourself with people that shares the same passion.
Yeah.
So talk with colleagues, with friends, with watch collectors, join groups, go to events, and don't be afraid of going into the boutiques just to ask and to wear the watches, to view the watches.
Yeah.
And I think that people need to, it's better, no. The more you see watches, the more you understand about watches and about craftsmanship, about quality. And it's also important to have a community behind.
Yeah.
To share your thoughts. Maybe a friend or a collector has another experience with a brand. Maybe he owned the timepiece that you're interested in buying, so he can give you a few tips. And as long as you share with the community and with your friends, it's easier to move towards building the best watch collection in your eyes. I'm in a few groups of collectors, and of course there are evenings where I can turn off my phone at midnight and wake up the next morning with 200 messages. But it's not only pictures of the wrist saying look at what I'm wearing, it's what should I choose between this one and this one, I'm having some doubts, what do you think about this new release? It's about exchanging, and it's about learning from other people's experiences to make your own choices.
Yeah, true knowledge is better than
Exactly,
what, right?
exactly, always.
Always. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you very much. The pleasure was mine. Thank you so much.
But this week we're gonna have the event together, right?
Yes, exactly.
The preview event for the Christie.
Exactly.
And because of I'm the chronograph fan, I saw that you have the particular 130, right? And the 15, 29. You have two.
Exactly.
For Hong Kong auction.
We have so in Bangkok here we have some watches from the Hong Kong auction that will happen end of May, and we also have some items from the Geneva auction that will take place on early May, second weekend of May. And there are definitely, I brought a few chronographs for you to see, so definitely nice watches.
Wow.
And a few words about the Geneva auction. This season we have roughly 230 watches, and we're really proud because the majority of those watches, of those interesting watches, they come from private collectors, and also they're fresh to market. So we're really happy because some pieces we have never seen before, some pieces emerge from the market that were unknown of, even forgotten by the brand sometimes. So we're quite lucky to be able to have all those watches in one single catalog.
Okay, see you at the event.
With pleasure.
Goodbye, ครับ
Let's go see some watches.